which I don't know if it she got it all the first time. And it was super fast the first part, but then when she closed the wound, that seemed to take a long time. And that was, I'd never had stitches before, and stitches in my face, and the kind of stitching, I could feel it didn't hurt, but I could feel it was very weird and very unpleasant.
Yeah, and you were awake throughout,
Yeah, wake throughout.
which is better really, but still a bit strange.
Yeah, it's a little harder on you mentally
Yeah,
than yeah,
but physically probably better.
physically better, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's good. Yeah, we kept you waiting a bit because Isabel, who is assistant SBC, right? In training. So we wanted to talk a few minutes before
That's right.
opening everything up. So can we see you at least for at the beginning, please, Linda? Is it possible to come on video?
Possibly. I have horrible backlighting here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong. I have my video on, but it's not showing me other
Ah,
than a photo.
right. Well,
Sorry about that.
no, anyway, hi and welcome. Okay. Yeah, we can let everybody else in. Hi there. Hi, Jerry, Carol. Okay. Anyway, at least everybody's smiling. That's about as good as it gets in Samsara, I think. Hi, Kathleen. So anyway, here we are again. Lama Rinpoche often used to quote Lama Yeshe saying that the good thing about not dying, not having died already, is you get to meet your old friends again. So that is nice. Anyway, I must say, I think myself, the good thing about not dying is still being alive. I think I prefer that. I find myself liking less and less to travel, and then sometimes I think to myself, pretty soon, you're like out of your what they call comfort zone. It's true, like just being in this place where everything's set up around you. You know where to go for your shopping. You know where to get the things you like. Everything nice and comfortable. So that's nice. It's nice like that. But then, of course, one day that all comes to an end, and it's like yeah. I know for a while, seems like rushing around in the intermediate state, then you're born somewhere, hopefully as a human. Who knows which parents, hopefully good ones with good genes. Apparently, something Kyabje Charamji was saying recently, not just to pray for the quick return of that was a Brimji, but pray for him to have good genes. It's very practical, right? And it's true. So anyway, rushing around but things not being just nice and comfortable the way you like for a while. Anyway. But that's for the future. Anyway. Hopefully not coming too soon. Anyway, so we have these 3 classes. Oh, by the way, maybe you can guess from the background. I think we're all in the same time zone for a change. I'll be leaving for the UK next month, but otherwise, same as time zone. So starting at this unearthly hour. When I'm in England, it's nice because it's kind of like 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something. 4 o'clock, actually. So anyway, three classes where we're looking at the 12 links of dependent origination and the what do you call it? The wheel of life. So I think it's quite a useful thing to spend a bit of time looking at. Quite interesting, quite useful. So anyway, and of course, obviously hosted by Land of Medicine Buddha. And then meanwhile, if we can have the refuge and bodhicitta prayer, we'll recite together. Isabel's going to share that on the screen. Eventually you should be able to do that so that it takes up the whole screen. Not that it matters much. The main thing is we have the prayer up there, so that's good. So reciting this once together in Tibetan and then a couple of times in English. And try to think of the meaning as we're reciting it. And then we'll spend a bit of time meditating on bodhicitta, refuge bodhicitta. Sangye jeda zoye chana janjo banda tani kyasuje dagi jinsa kibe zonam ki drola penje sangye drupara shu. I take refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. If you can stay there, we have to do it 3 times. And then that'll be it. Then we won't need the prayers anymore. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. So it says, by my merits of generosity and so forth, and so forth, I mean, includes whatever it is that you're doing. So at the moment we're spending these 3 classes, and particularly this one class from 8 to 9:30, learning about the wheel of life, which means learning about how our own minds work, how samsara works, and Yeah. So with the perfect bodhicitta motivation, then we create a huge amount of merit. And so this talks about the idea of creating that merit and dedicating that to enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. Can you hear me clearly? Good. I'm quite aware from the screen actually, so that's good. Okay, so yeah, that's all we need from the screen, from the screen share at the moment. Thanks. So mainly spending a few minutes thinking about how, well, bodhicitta, the awakening mind, in other words, thinking of the countless or infinite mother sentient beings, kind mother sentient beings, thinking of their suffering and feeling that it's unbearable for that they're suffering. We find it unbearable that they're suffering. Can't bear that. Feel like we have to do something, and what we're going to do is, since what they want is happiness, and they don't like suffering, just like ourselves. So to strive for enlightenment in order to be able to guide as many sentient beings as possible in the best way. When we talk about achieving enlightenment for sake of sentient beings, it's not just some kind of nice idea that Buddhists talk about. It's actually the nature of our mind, the nature of our mind, which we've always had, we always have. The nature of our mind is such that it makes us it makes us able to achieve enlightenment. It's actually not just an idea, it's not a dream, it's the reality of our own minds. The nature of our mind is such that what's unenlightened about it at the moment, what's limited at the moment, is just something temporary and can be, and that all that can change by practicing the path of the Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva, the one who's dedicated to enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So let's try to generate that mind, that awakening mind, bodhicitta, mainly by thinking about the suffering of the countless mother sentient beings. So let's get going. So now, like this is, I think, in publicity. Just a moment. I don't want to see myself. Let's see, that's better. So anyway, yeah, according to the publicity, this is called the 12 Links. It's about the Wheel of Life. Don't know exactly the same, but pretty much the same. Because if you look at the Wheel of Life, it's a sort of pictorial way of explaining the 12 links. And the 12 links are all about how it is that, mainly about how we get into trouble, how we get into cycle existence, how it is that we end up being born, again and again in cyclic existence. And so actually, one thing is that so for people who've been following this, this series of talks going through the stage of the path, Amazon covers mid-length stage of the path, then more recently we were looking at the four noble truths, the four truths. So the truth of suffering, which describes, the suffering nature of cyclic existence. Truth of the origin, which explains where that comes from, where that suffering comes from, which is a very useful idea, of course. When you see there's a problem, you want to know how to solve it. And it seems like the way to solve it is if you can understand what made it happen, then that gives you more of a chance of, like understanding how to change it. And for the most part in this world, and actually not just like other people, but the way it's a kind of the habit of most people in the world. And I think we'll find ourselves, prone to this, making the same mistake of when things go wrong, then it's like you want to blame somebody. And it's usually somebody else, right? Blame it on the politicians, blame it on your neighbors, blame it on anybody, but taking responsibility oneself doesn't even occur to us. But here, with the four truths, having started off with a really in-depth understanding of an explanation of really, how deeply flawed this kind of existence we're leading at the moment is, then the blame isn't to be put on somebody else, some higher beings, neighbors, etc. But it's one's own mind. Not like blaming oneself, I'm bad, but if you want to change things, if you want to stop that suffering, then this is so anyway, I've got the image so that you can see the Chenrezi, but now you can't see anyway. Maybe I should do Chinese way. You have to point at yourself. This is what I have to change. This is what I have to change. And since really and truly where our problems come from is our own minds, that's really good because you can't change everybody else. you know, like in the Shantidevi says in the Bodhicharavatar, you know, the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. You can, you know, if you want to protect your feet, then either you cover the whole world in leather, or you just cover your feet in leather. And actually, that's the only way that works, because you couldn't possibly make the whole world. You couldn't possibly cover the whole world in leather anyway. It's impossible. So just like that, you know, as far as enemies are concerned, which most, if not all the time, is a creation of our own minds anyway. We think, you know, this is my enemy, this is my enemy, this is my enemy. Well, you can either destroy your enemies, and also something we're aware of these days is that if, you know, you destroy one enemy, then that enemy's family is also now become your enemy. Or you just destroy the one enemy of anger, your own inner anger. So it's actually very, very practical, and very realistic. So like that, with you know, samsara, it wasn't created by God, it wasn't created by other people, politicians, and so on. Suffering, problems not created by others, not mainly created by others, but it's one's own mind. So just change your own mind, change your own attitude. So then how do you do that? Then by practicing the path, and then through practicing the path, like the stages of the path, Lam Rim stages of the path, leading to liberation, in other words, nirvana, and that freedom from psychic existence, free from this sort of like difficult kind of existence, kind of impure kind of existence, and, you know, instead going on to a kind of like pure kind of life. Okay, so that's the Four Truths, and the 12 Links is really another. It's like the Four Truths in more detail. And so I want to start off by looking at the image, and you should all have the image ready to look at. There's one that was sent out. I think we must have found it on the internet. There are other ones. In fact, right here in front of me, I have. There's a few pretty good books that talk about the Wheel of Life and the 12 Links. One of them is by Geshe Sonam Rinchen, translated by Ruth Sonam. So I noticed that, you know, on the front cover, it's got one image of the 12 Links. And then a little way into the book, he starts explaining the 12 Links and the imagery. And there's a different image. And then there's the one by Andy Weber, which I like a lot. So you find that on the FPMT site. Very nicely done. And what's interesting is they're all a little bit different, which is sometimes a bit strange, but they're all a bit different. Because why I'm saying strange, because in one way strange, in one way not strange, because this image, the image itself was designed by the Buddha, according to the, you know, historical accounts. So it seems that two of his two main disciples, Shariputra and Moggallana. So they used to go to different realms and come back and explain to the Buddha's other, you know, disciples what it's like there, and in order to encourage people to you know, practice the path so that they don't have to go to such places and experience such suffering. So they would go to the lower realms and come back with descriptions of the kind of sufferings that the sentient beings experiencing there. And then the Buddha realized that, of course, they wouldn't be around forever. And so he designed this, and his instruction was that like every monastery, I mean, I guess, I don't know if maybe they didn't have Dharma centers then. There certainly wasn't an FPMT. But anyway, Dharma centers, monasteries should have an image of this and somebody around who knows how to explain it. And of course, if we had that at LMB, I think they'd probably be redundant. I don't know if anybody would really be going around asking for explanations of this image. But anyway, that's the idea. So anyway, so why would they be different? Well, different people hear things differently, don't they? I don't know, and maybe the Buddha allowed for a certain amount of flexibility. But anyway, sometimes the differences are quite huge. So the one that we've got now, okay, I wish I could switch from image to image, but I think maybe, okay, so everybody has this image, right? We all have it. Okay, well, at least I've got 2 people putting their thumbs up. And other people might be putting their thumbs up, but yeah, okay, and they see another thumb. Okay, so let's assume everybody is there. Okay, so in this one, in this one, you got this circle, a wheel, what they call it, the wheel of life. Sipe korlo. Korlo is a wheel. So sipa is existence, and it's short for cyclic existence, cyclic or cyclic existence. I have to be careful there because I know sometimes when I know it's my accent or something, you don't realize you have an accent, right? So apparently people sometimes when I say cyclic existence, they think I'm saying psychic existence, which is not what I mean. So cyclic existence. So yeah, and sibicolo, so the sibicolo, the wheel of life or the wheel of existence. And interesting, really. Sipa. Sometimes it means like a possibility. So there are these different possibilities, I guess. Anyway, sibicolo changapa, 5 parts. So it's the full name of the wheel of life, like this image, is the 5-part wheel of life. And why it's called, why it's described as, having 5 parts is because 1, 2, 3, if you look at the, not right in the middle, but, how can I describe it? Starting from the outside, you've got those 12 little sections. So those are the 12 links. And then the next one in, you can see the red lines dividing the circle up into 5. So those are the 5 parts. And what are the 5 parts? Well, there are 5 parts which depict 5 parts of cyclic existence. So down there at the bottom is the hell realms. And this one is quite detailed, really, although when you zoom in, it's a bit gets a bit blurry. But you can see on the left side, red color, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they usually talk about 8 levels of the hotels, and then on the other side also the white side, which is like ice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8 cold hells, and I don't know what's going on in the middle, but anyway, various things that go on there. So that's one, right? And then on the other side, let's see, it's pretty obvious. The one that the one on the left side of that of that one, no prizes for guessing which that depicts, because usually what I'm going to try to talk about, just to or bring up any addresses. See, it says 6 parts. Some images of the wheel of life have 6. Okay, even though it's a 5-part wheel of life, which means there should be 5, you often see 6. Why do you think that some artists would depict it with 6, possibly following instructions from, you know, their own teacher or some lama or whatever? Is because, you know, we talk about the 6. Commonly, we talk about the 6 realms, right? 3 lower realms, 3 often we call higher realms, not really higher realms, more like the 3 happy realms. So yeah, so we're going to see why. So that's why you would depict it with 6. But let's see why. Let's see how this fit, how these two fit together. So on the left, you've got the animals, and then on the right, that would be the praetors, hungry ghosts. So that's the 3, what we call, you know, usually the 3 lower realms, right? So then, so that should be the bottom half, and then you've got the top half. Not exactly half, but anyway, you do see 2 sections there. So normally, the smaller section, that would be human beings. Yeah, it's even got tents. Those must be the refugee camps. I don't know that. And yeah, anyway, looks like there's some people listening to a Lama teaching. There's an empty house there, just like we have empty houses. People need houses, but they're still there empty houses. And then stupas and I don't know. Although there's some monastics listening to the Lama teaching. So they're all doing very good things anyway. The human beings in this particular realm, they're all leading very virtuous lives. So then you've got one section left, and that's where you have the God realm. So normally we talk about gods and demigods, right? Suras and asuras. Suras must be the gods, asuras would be the demigods, I think. And so they are depicted together because their sort of where they live overlaps. And then when you think, well, also the humans and animal lives overlap. So why aren't they in one section? And the answer is because humans are in the happy realms, animals in the unhappy realms. So you don't depict them together. Whereas the gods and demigods, they're sort of both like happy realms. Happy because relatively happy. Okay. Having said that, there's another image I saw. You see in the middle there, you see in the middle of that big section on the left, which has got the gods and demigods. Is everybody following? Right? Yeah, okay. So you got that big patch with there's a tree there. I don't know if it's all a bit mixed up. But anyway, you see that sort of block in the middle with somebody sitting in a house on top. That would be, I imagine that this is meant to be Mount Meru. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because, I mean, some of you would know already, but when you hear about Mount Meru, they talk about Mount Meru, right? So the sort of classical and also discredited view of the world is it's flat, right? And in the middle of this flat world, there's this huge mountain called Mount Meru, and sometimes they say, oh, you know, huge mountain like Mount Everest or something. So you kind of imagine that Mount Meru is going to be huge mountain on the lines of Mount what do you call it? Mount Everest. So you know, like that kind of shape. But no, this is the shape of Mount Meru. Well, I don't even know why they call it a mountain. It doesn't look like a mountain to me. But anyway, we can't argue. Arguing about the shape of Mount Meru is anyway arguing about the shape of something which doesn't exist. So there's not really much to worry about, is there? But anyway, that would be Mount Meru. And in fact, so Mount Meru, so you know, if you take the teachings on mandala offering, so then you know that, let's see, the east is white. The east of the mountain is white. The white is made of silver anyway, so white color because of that. Then next round is this what they call that's the next one round is what they call the southern continent, which is where we live. And so that's well, Vaiduria, and there's some kind of discussion, debate about actually what precious stone that is. And for a long time, well, certainly in the FMT, it was always called lapis lazuli or lapis lazuli. But it seems more likely that it's a beryl, stone called beryl. For a while, people were saying star sapphire, and I think that's I just like that name, but apparently it's wrong. There's so people who've sort of like put their heads together to work out what this must be. They say it's blue beryl, and just to add to it, because I think it's really cool, and some of you might know, some of you might not know, but it's because the side of Mount Meru that's on our side, because it's made of this blue beryl, that's why the sky is blue. So that means if you're living in the eastern continent, the sky would be white. That would be pretty weird, wouldn't it? A white sky. Maybe like the white sky of England. White because of the clouds, right? But anyway, then on the other side, so the western continent. So that's and you can see that here. You see, you see on the picture of Mount Meru that the side, the three sides that you can see. Of course, you can't see the back. You can see the white of the east and the blue of the southern continent, then the red because it's red crystal, and then the back would be yellow because it's gold. So then you'd have a like a red sky instead of blue. I mean, it's so weird, the whole idea. But anyway, who knows? I mean, maybe in different worlds, not always, maybe the sky isn't always blue. I don't know how that would work, but anyway, maybe some worlds the sky actually is red or yellow or whatever. Maybe green even. I don't know, pink. Who knows? But anyway, so that's the non-existent Mount Meru. And I think that's all I wanted to say about that. So yeah, in the Sonan Rinchen book, his explanation is based on one which has 6 sections, one of which looks like this, Mount Meru, and it's for the form realm. Anyway, I might explain that later. I don't know if that's very key. So those are the places where you get born into, right? Those are the different places you get born into. And all the time that you're living in one of those places, you know, your life is anyway ebbing away all the time. And so to depict that impermanence, the whole of that wheel is held in the mouth of this monster, which is sometimes depicted as some kind of deity. And even here, you know, it's like it's got these wearing various kinds of jewelry. But anyway, another book which talks about this, which I really like, I think maybe my favorite book on the Row of Links, which is the one by Gishi Tachin. I think Mahayana Sutra and Tantra Press is very, very nice. I don't like everything about it, but it's got some very, very nice things in it. And so yeah, so he's very clear, this is actually like a monster. So I know, so it's like, and I think particularly for our life, it's like you're living. So this monster, anyway, it's like it's like death. So it's showing us how our entire life we are living in the jaws of death, which could snap shut at any moment. So it's a teaching on impermanence, teaching on death. Yeah. So there's that. Anyway, so you're born there, and why are you born there? Well, if you look right in the middle, the bullseye in the middle. I mean, yeah, that the one at the bottom doesn't look very much like a pig, but it's meant to be a pig. It actually looks more like an elephant, but maybe not an elephant. It's got elephant ears, but it's meant to be a pig anyway. It's meant to be a pig. And kind of like this pig has got, so the pig represents ignorance. Pig represents ignorance, right? And then he's got these two animals, sort of tails in his mouth, to show that from ignorance comes, well, anyway, you've got the bird. I mean, I don't know what kind of bird that's. The actually looks like that. Looks like a bit like a duck, but it's meant to be a pigeon, or maybe even a what do you call it? A dove, pigeon or dove, to represent attachment. So apparently, pigeons. Anyway, if you watch them, you can see for yourself. They're very much driven by desire, a lot of desire. So anyway, representing attachment, and then the snake representing anger. I don't know why the pig is particularly depicts ignorance, because they're not stupid. Pigs aren't stupid. I guess, I mean, in terms of what they eat, they seem to be quite undiscerning. So no, I don't know. But anyway, whatever. The pig represents ignorance, and the way that the mental afflictions work is that attachment and anger, which are the ones that we most notice causing troubles in our lives, they are all kind of like very egocentered or egocentric, right? Anyway, whenever you're angry, whenever the attachment arises, grasping attachment, there's always a very strong sense of an I. So it's in that sense that they come from ignorance that conceives of an I that's completely independently existent. So yeah, so it starts with, so mainly starts with the ignorance, but then also because of the ignorance, attachment, and anger, and all the other mental afflictions. So those are the ones that make you take birth in those various abodes of cyclic existence. And that other ring there, that depicts the intermediate state. So this is a bit different from some I've seen. So here on the left side, it's all in white, right? And then on the right side, the right half, it's all dark, right? So the ones on the left, I mean, it looks to me like there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, there's 9 of them, or maybe 8, and plus the one that's guiding them. So I don't know what those 8 are supposed to represent. Often on other images, you'll see 3. The 3 being, you've got human, demigod, and God. And likewise, on the other side, you'll have 3 because of the 3 realms. And what's notable and also noticeable, so the left side is sort of like white, right, and light. It's kind of white colored and light. And they're all going, you see them all going upwards. So apparently in the intermediate state, if you're an intermediate state being that's going to be born in one of the fortunate realms, then you have a sense of like moving upwards and being in a light place, a place where there's light. And so, yeah, more like being escorted upwards, not being forced upwards, but being escorted upwards. And then in the intermediate state, when you're going to be born in one of the unfortunate realms, then you have a feeling of being like in darkness, and it's like and going downwards, not going up, but going downwards, maybe going down head first. And in fact, well, it does look like, I've just noticed. So it's like there's actually 3 beings in there being dragged downwards, right? So that's maybe the 3 for the 3 lower realms. I don't know where you get 3 from on the other side for the fortunate realms, but anyway, for the lower realms. And so you can see, there's this guy at the bottom dragging them down. They're going head first. And then the one at the top is like chasing them down. So they're not really voluntary, right? Not really voluntary. Not voluntary. So, of course, that's not the whole thing. That's not everything, but generally speaking, that sort of, so because of ignorance mainly, and then also because of attachment and anger, we create karma, and then towards the end of our life, one karma or another is going to be nourished, and then because of that karma being nourished, that means that if it's the karma to be born in one of the fortunate realms, that means that you're going to be born in one of the fortunate realms via the intermediate state on the left side there. And if the karma that's nourished towards the end of this life is like a negative karma, like from killing or whatever, then you're going to be born in one of the lower realms via the intermediate state, which is more like the one, the way it's depicted on the right side of that ring. Okay, so far so good. Good. Then the outer band, which has got these 12 parts, that explains in more detail that process in more detail. And one thing, well, anyway, let's just go through them roughly so that we know roughly anyway. So 12 links. Well, we're going to get a list of the 12 links by looking at these 12 sections, right? So at the top, kind of like 1 o'clock, there's the bar at 12 o'clock. So you've got this old man who's a blind old man. So that's depicting ignorance. So that one is for ignorance. Some of these are more obvious than others, and as I say, you know, they can, the way that different artists depict them varies quite a huge amount. I know that I've got a line drawing of the Wheel of Life, which is also quite useful. And the first one looks like some kind of, doesn't at all look like a blind old man. It looks like some kind of skinhead with spiky hair. It's quite strange, really. But anyway, it's a good image. Otherwise, even if they've got mistakes in them, you can still learn from them. So anyway, that's for ignorance. And then the next one round is the potter making clay pots, and so that's for karmic formations. Anyway, karmic formations, tujiki le. So some people like to translate the karma as action. So I've seen one translation where this one is called formative actions. So karmic formations. That kind of works, the formative. Otherwise, the word tuje, tujiki le, tuje is often translated like a compositional, or what do you call it, conditioning or compositional, some kind of compositional factor, or compounded, the idea of being compounded. Anyway, formation, I don't know. Anyway, it's how it's often translated, karmic formations. Karmic formations. So at least that gives you the connotation, like under the control of ignorance, we create different kinds of karma, and just in the same way that a potter creates different shapes and size of pots. So it kind of works. Then see, the next one has got a monkey in a tree, and those little blobs, they're I think they're meant to be fruit. They could be anything really, couldn't they? So we've got ignorance, karmic formations, and this one is consciousness. So the monkey would represent consciousness. And one thing that's important to keep in mind, which will help you to avoid confusion when you're thinking about this. I mean, you know, feeling confused and puzzled is usually a very good thing because it means that you're thinking about it. But still, you know, ultimately you want to solve the confusion, right? Get rid of the confusion. So often in these images, like for example here, this is an image of for consciousness, but it's not particularly an image for the consciousness link, if you see the difference. So we know that the third link is consciousness. When we talk about the third link being consciousness, what it means is because of ignorance, you create karma. And then once the karma is over, you're left with the imprint, and the imprint is left on consciousness. And consciousness in general is being depicted by this monkey. And why is it being depicted by a monkey? So I think it's got to do with the fact, and not all, they don't all show it in this way, actually. Sometimes I think it's like an empty house or something. I'll have a look at another image in a moment. Yeah. I wonder if I had it here. Yeah, like in Andy Weber's one. Yeah, Andy Weber has also got a monkey. But actually, in some images, what I like, the one that I like anyway, it's got a monkey inside of a house. I'll talk about that in a moment, but let's keep going with this. So the mind, so the monkey would be the mind, and the different fruits on that tree would be the different objects of mind. So it's talking about the way that the mind goes from object to object, right? It's just that this is quite similar to another of the links, which is a little bit confuses things. Oh, except that here it's in this image, it doesn't show a monkey. Okay. So we're still on that one anyway, the one with the monkey in the tree. So the monkey, the mind goes from object to object, just like the monkey going from branch to branch and you know, wherever the fruit is. So somehow it's quite useful actually anyway. Because the monkey goes from branch to branch to get the fruit. So just like that, our mind's mainly driven by attachment, going here and there in search of, you know, like pleasure. Okay, so like that. So that's consciousness. And then just to, well, anyway, the next one is so that will be the fourth one, right? The fourth link, which is name and form. Name and form. Name and form means means that, so we have 5 aggregates, right? Oh, yeah, of course, you have what that means is we've got a body and mind. So the body is what is what's meant by form. When we say name and form, form means it's our body, or if you like, in the when we talk about the 5 aggregates, it's the form aggregate. Then name refers to the mind, or in other words, the remaining aggregates. And if I remember rightly, the reason that those ones are called name is because mainly it's depending upon the person depends mainly upon the 4 aggregates of the mind. But I don't know if that's I'm not quite sure about that. I'll have to look into that. So anyway, name and form. So I think in this image then, because it shows a boat with some people in it, so 3 people in it, in fact, then the boat would be the body, and the people in it would be the other aggregates. But there's only 3, isn't there? So where's the other one? So I don't know. Maybe hiding somewhere. Then so that's name and form, the 4th one. Then the 5th one, Kijituk, the 6 sources, or 6 ayatanas, a Sanskrit word. So the 6 sources, Kijituk, Kijijuni. This is actually talking about the 6 sense organs, the 6 sense organs. And so they are, in other words, you know, you've got the eye sense organ, which is a bit different from the physical eye, something more like the nervous system, maybe within the eye organ, something more subtle than the eye itself. Yes, anyway, eye organ. So then you have the ear organ, nose, tongue, body organ, which, you know, is, sort of permeates the whole body. And then the mental organ. So the mental organ is there all the time, right from the time you're born. In fact, of course, right from conception, I should say, right from conception, you have a body and mind, but you don't necessarily have the all of your senses intact, right? So as things gradually develop in the womb, then you have all of the senses complete, but in the womb, the 5 senses, you know, from the eye sense to the body sense, do they function? What do you think? Do they function? I seem to Well, them, I guess in the West we believe that they do because people talk about playing, I know, music, soothing music, and playing, I don't know, educational things so that the baby in the womb is going to get a head start on other kids and stuff. So I guess we do believe, and maybe I'm not sure about all of them. I'm not sure that. So maybe the ears are working, although they would be filled with liquid. But anyway, you can hear underwater, so it should be okay. Then so the ears, eyes, I don't know, all the pictures you see of babies inside the womb, they all seem to have their eyes closed. So I don't know if that's really functioning. Well, I mean, functioning in a way, but, not kind of like looking around, seeing things. Then nose, I don't know if you can really have a nose working if you're not breathing. And tongue, maybe you're sensing something, I don't know. Body, I'm sure you can feel things. So anyway, but think about it. So they're all functioning, but when they really function is when the child has left the womb, right? Because whatever you can see in the womb, supposing you can see in the womb, that's nothing compared with what you can see when you've left the womb, right? All the different colors and shapes and light and so on. I mean, if you can see anything in the womb, what's it going to be? Kind of like just blurs and darkness, right? So I think that when the six senses are depicted as an empty house, it's to show that even though they're all there, it's like there's nobody home. The house is there, but there's nobody home. They're not really functioning. They don't really come into their own until the child has been born from the womb. Okay. So that's those two sort of usually go together: name and form, and the six sources. Minasuk, Kijituk, six ayatanas, six sources. I have to think about that. Kiji, sources. Then you've got another three belonging together. I think we're gonna find. So Minasuk, Kijituk, Soa Rikpa, Soa Rikpa, Soa Rikpa. Yeah, no, these two belong together. The next two, sorry, two. So this one is, the next one is feeling. So let's see. I can't really see what's going on here in this this picture. Otherwise, feeling, contact. 민정수 계시죠? 소rekpa. It's almost like they're the wrong way around, those two. Sorekpa. Because let me have a look at this other image I have. No, it's the same. Sorekpa. Well, anyway, in the Andy Weber one, it's it's a bit clearer, so it should be. I mean, well, I guess it's a cultural thing because this is a woman together with a man. To me, it looks like a young woman together with an old woman, but not very clear. Not very clear, this particular image. So anyway, so that one's feeling. So it's like depicted by the man and woman together, experiencing pleasure together, right? So feeling. Then contact. Contact is shown by a man who's just been shot in the eye with an arrow. So, yeah, so I'll go into these more maybe next week. But anyway, contact, sort of in the image of contact with an arrow. Then craving, grasping, and existence. So you've got the next three belong together. So again, everybody's okay, right? Keep going. Right, good. So craving, so the next three, 8th, 9th, and 10th, craving, grasping, and existence, where existence again is short for cyclic existence. So craving is a kind of attachment. Grasping it is also a kind of attachment. So what happens is, you see, as I mentioned before, so because of ignorance, we create karma. That imprint is left on, the imprint of that karma is left on consciousness. So it's not like, you know, one consciousness and one imprint. You know, we have countless imprints of previous actions, karmas that we've engaged in this life and past lives. So, you know, so many. I mean, you know, just countless, really. So anyway, amongst those, one is going to be nourished at the end of this life. And they're nourished by craving and grasping. It is all quite complicated, actually, I think, personally. But anyway, by craving and grasping. So the reason why, according to some people, our main problem isn't ignorance, but it's the attachment, is because, you know, it's attachment that no matter how much karmic imprints you might have, if they are not nourished by attachment, then you wouldn't, that those imprints couldn't cause you to be born in psychic existence. So anyway, so craving is shown by, this should be, according to other images I've seen, although it's a bit blurred, somebody's being served with a you know, a glass or mug of beer. So the connection between wanting to drink a glass of beer and craving, right? Which is, again, you know, type of attachment. Not the strongest form of attachment, but then when that attachment, which at this point is called craving, becomes stronger than its grasping. And in this diagram of the 12 links, then you've got a person reaching for the fruit from a tree. So actually not just wanting something, but actually doing something to get it. So the attachment has become stronger in that sense, right? So grasping at the fruit in the tree. And then the next one, existence. Okay. So existence, cyclic existence. So what's happened is that, so you're craving, ignorance, karmic formations. So the second link is karma, right? The second link is karma. This link is also karma. So 2 of the 12 links are karma. And basically what this means is that at the beginning you created the karma, then the imprint is left on consciousness, right? So it helps a bit, I think, to keep in mind that basically karma is the mental factor of intention, And the mental factor of intention is what is responsible for guiding your mind and the rest of the mental factors towards a given object. So it's the mental factor of intention that is sort of like directing the mind, and that's what karma does. So if you keep in mind that karma is the mental factor of intention, then that gives you a very different idea of what karma is, right? We tend to think of karma as being some kind of action on a, and generally speaking, that does work, but more precisely, it's what's directing your mind. And now that imprint, right, was left on the consciousness, and it might have been for a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, it could be years, it could be many lifetimes. However long, anyway, it remains there. And then towards the end of one life or another, craving and grasping nourish that imprint. And what does it mean to nourish that imprint? It means it's going to activate that imprint and actually make that imprint into something which again is directing the mind in a particular direction. So that's why you have craving, grasping, and then existence, which is short for cyclic existence. And that's a case of calling the name of calling that karma by the name of what it produces, which is birth in cyclic existence. Okay, so existence, right? And I'm not sure about this image, but I know that the imagery for which also is also actually helpful for understanding existence. They say it's like a boil that's just about to burst, right? So the craving and grasping have nourished the imprint of karma to the point where that karma is just about to make us take birth again somewhere in psychic existence. Yeah, let's have a look again. Yeah. Yeah, so I think in the Andy Weber one, this is an image I'm more familiar with. It shows a woman who is heavily pregnant, very heavily pregnant. So what's she just about to do? She's just about to give birth, right? So in the same way, the karma at this point is just about to produce its result of being born in, one of the various places in cyclic existence. Whereas here in this one, it looks like there's two people laying together. I don't see the connection much, really. But anyway, so that's existence, right? And then you've got two left, right? There's two more to go, right? So that was the 10th one. Now we've got the 11th and the 12th, and they also sort of go together as a pair. So they are birth and then aging and death. Roughly speaking, it's called aging and death, but we'll see when we get to it. So then, yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? So looks like she doesn't have a midwife, and she's sort of on her knees with the baby just coming out. So what's interesting here is this is conventionally how we understand, oh, wrong one, birth, right? Is the baby actually coming out of the womb. And even amongst Tibetans, when you talk about being born, they think mainly in terms of actually leaving the womb. But in the 12 links, when it talks about birth and aging and death, like the 11th and 12th links, the birth actually means conception. So that's quite interesting, really, because the conception is a long way before the baby comes out of the womb, and it's even a long way before, you know, the mother being heavily pregnant. But anyway, that's besides the point. So, but still, birth, which in the 12 links means conception, is depicted by a woman giving birth. Okay. So don't make the mistake of thinking that because this image shows a woman giving birth, that the birth link happens when you leave the womb. That would actually be nonsense, especially when you think about the discussion we've had so far about having name and form from the very moment of conception. And if you've got name and form, that means you've got your 5 aggregates. So the 5 aggregates are there, right there in the at the moment of conception, right? And so on. So it wouldn't make sense at all. And in any case, you'd be asking the question, well, if the birth link is at the moment that you're born, leaving in the sense of leaving the womb, well, what's the name of everything up to there from the moment of conception? So anyway, that would be a mistake. That's incorrect. So anyway, so the image of a woman giving birth is to represent the birth link, which is conception. And so you're born, and then you see aging and death. Aging and death. So strictly speaking, this one is like something like aging and death as appropriate. And what that means is that even though right from the moment of conception, the aging process begins, so that nobody escapes aging. Once you've been born, then you start to age. Not everybody gets old. So from that point of view, it's kind of given as not necessarily aging and death, because not everybody, well, actually, maybe I should call it not aging and death, but old age and death. So aging starts from the moment of conception, but not everybody reaches old age. So I think this kind of, I don't know what's happened to this person's face, but again, you zoom in, you can't quite see. But this is supposed to be an old person for old age, right? Carrying the corpse, which would be death. And so the other part, which is not doesn't have to be there, the corpse is being carried towards the charnel ground, or anyway. So for the most part, I think in Tibet, when somebody died, the body would be cut up into pieces and fed to vultures, right? So that's what's going on here. So yeah, it's just to show that. Anyway, I think maybe that'll do for today. So that's how it happens anyway. Ignorance, karma, consciousness. And even though some explanations might seem to say that the order of the 12 links is you got, first of all, number 1, then number 2, number 3, number 4, right down to number 12, just in order. That's not actually how they happen, as we'll see. So you've got the first one, for example, the first one, followed by the second one, followed by the third one. Okay, so ignorance, karmic formations, consciousness. consciousness means that the imprint of the karma is now on the consciousness, right? Then you have to go all the way around to the eighth one, eighth one, which is the person drinking alcohol, drinking beer. Those now operating on that imprint until that imprint has been brought to the point where it's ready to produce that next life. Those three, and so those are all the causal links. They're called the causal links. So they are like in the Four Truths, where we talk about the truth of suffering and the truth of origin. Those would all be the truth of origin, and the rest of the links would be the truth of suffering. So the rest of the links are all sort of describing on one level or another, in one way or another, the life that is produced by that by that origin. Okay, I hope that helps. So yeah, we'll go into that more next time. We haven't looked at the whole of the image. There's some other things as well, and we need to go get some clarity on what these different links mean. That gives you a rough idea. Okay, so can we, if there are any questions, then please go ahead and ask. Maybe time for one question, and then we can dedicate.
Venerable Steve,
Yeah.
I have a question. I don't know if you can see. What
Just
are the
just a sec. I think I can pin you so that I can see
yeah.
that image. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay. My question is two parts. What because I realize there's nothing arbitrary in Tibetan art. So what is the significance of the little mountains below
Mount Meru.
Mount Meru?
All right. Yeah. I imagine that although it doesn't look very much like it for me at the moment, but I can only think it would that those mountains would be representing the different continents. It's just that you got so if that's right, then strictly speaking, there should be 12 of them. So how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's more than 12. So that's blown that one. Otherwise, I'm not sure. But I know that, in those classical descriptions, they talk about like not just the 4 continents and the 8 subcontinents, but like a ring of mountains or something like that around the edge of the world. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, so in other words, basically, I don't really know.
And my second question is at the top of I don't know if you can see it at the top.
Yeah, which bit are you? I can see it, but I'm not sure which bit. The white thing.
Yes. What's the significance of that? And it's floating above the Buddha's
Yeah.
head?
Yeah. It's difficult to see. It looks like it's from the shape, and as I say, when you try to zoom in, it's just blurred. From the shape, it seems a bit like a victory banner. And so I don't know why that would be there. The mansion at the top, it kind of looks like a deity. But actually from the Ushnisha, the crown protrusion on the top maybe is a deity. So I don't know if that's maybe according to the preferences of the artist, but they do say that when you're offering a mandala, then you imagine that if you've had initiation, then you can imagine that that you are like in the form of your deity, you're at the top of Mount Meru, kind of like running the whole universe kind of thing. It's like you're the master of that universe, which means, you know, like a benevolent dictatorship, I suppose, kind of thing. And if you haven't had initiation, then you can imagine yourself as Brahma, a very powerful god. The whole idea being, you know, like, although power gets misused, if you're a good person and you have a lot of power, then you can use that to do a lot of good. Yeah. So so basically, I don't know all the detail, and sometimes it's the whim of the artist. Actually, I think you're right that it's better to assume that that in this art there's nothing which is, I can't remember the word you used, but it's all sort of like well thought out, and there's always a purpose. But you know, if you've ever painted a tanka yourself, you know that some of the things it's a little bit up to you what you put in. You might just feel like putting in a, you know, like if you might feel like drawing the trees like redwoods, just because of where you come from, kind of thing. And so then somebody comes along and says, you know, so what's the significance of these redwoods? Well, the significance of the redwoods is that the artist came from redwood land.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So shall we dedicate? I think we've got time to go through. Yeah. Anyway, if we hurry a bit, we can go through the dedication, those dedication prayers. Okay, good. May the precious supreme bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Then scroll down, please. Scroll down, scroll down. If you can scroll down a bit more to the next prayer. Thank you. Yeah. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. May you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by all the gone beyond victorious ones of the 3 times in order to have good conduct. Due to this virtue, may I quickly become a guru, Buddha, and lead all transmigratory beings without exception to that state. Can we go just straight down to the quick return prayer, please? Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge and of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. There's still another verse, yeah. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of reincarnation, swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Okay, that's all. Thanks. So see you next week, I hope. Bye. Take care.